So one thing I realize about doing random reviews is it pretty much makes sure that I have no excuses to not review every single toy named Hotshot in the history of ever, with maybe the exception of the Prime one because it's a mold I've already reviewed and it'd be very repetitive. But there are some that I haven't covered and a lot of people ask my opinion, so yes, because I'm the Hotshot guy who does not do webcomics, we're going to look at some Hotshots. And we start with the Cybertron Defense Hotshot from Cybertron, appropriately enough. And it's a very unique one among Hotshots because it's not a sports car and it's not yellow and red, which I know the most astute of viewers probably already knew. However, I need to clarify just so everyone's on the same page, just make sure it's all okay. So as you can see, he is a heavy armored vehicle, and I am certainly not reaching over to check TF Wiki to make sure what type of vehicle it is. Okay, now I suddenly just remembered what the name of the vehicle is. It is an M1117 Guardian Armored Security Vehicle, or at least a modified version of one. So it is based on a real-life armored truck of protection slash destruction, or slash defense, I guess. I like the look of this vehicle. Like, I seriously dig it. This is the Cybertron, so of course he has this kind of metallic faded blue, which is a really nice color. Really into that. And I do like a lot of the molding they did on this. There's a lot of rivet detailing all across the edges, and a lot of little extra panels of armor strewn about here and there to really give it this heavy look. Like this thing could take any bomb or bullet you fired at it. Some extra armored casings over here, supplies, I assume. Giant's knife sticking out of the side. We will cover that. We'll also point out rescue axe and shovel pinned to the side, because reasons. A little bit of silver detailing along here just to give it a little bit more of a machine look, like, I guess gas cans or whatever you want to pretend they are. And there's some extra paneling, some the headlights here, and you can see there is some paint detailing. The front does get some dark colors. It's almost a black, but not quite. And then some headlights as well. On the top, of course, you have these mounted guns, which isn't your typical variety for this vehicle, but, it's Transformers. He has to shoot somebody with something, and this is it. It does rotate all the way around, so that's handy to have, and the guns do move up and down, so he meets all requirements for a tank toy. But he's not a tank, he is a personnel carrier of some kind, and he rolls exceptionally well for that. A lot of good going on. He also has the unique Cybertron Defense sigil, with a little bit of a wing behind the Autobot logo. Not quite the one we're going to get later on as Cybertron Elite, but we'll take it for now. There's a detailing I like, but it gives a little bit of a problem here, and that is the door here, which I'm glad they painted to make it stand out as a detail, but it's supposed to line up with this other piece of molding on the side, and it doesn't quite. Like, the whole toy kind of accordions together and collapses in on itself to transform, so a lot of these panels in here don't quite line up, and that's a little bit of a problem, but it's nothing too extreme, so I'm not going to really harp on it too much. The feet also, I guess the feet also could have been a little bit better hidden. They're just kind of sticking out the back. Like, this feels like they could have folded in a little bit better than this, but we'll let it slide for a little bit here. These are minor quibbles at best. I like the blast. I like the openings here too. Usually when they're armored vehicles like this, they remember they're not supposed to have windshields. They're just portholes. That works. Now, if you want, there is a little bit of extra playability here. You do have a couple holes in the top, if you can find a gun that will actually peg in, and of course a few minicon pegs, because they still had minicons back then. But what we really want is this, his cyber key, so we can activate some gimmicks. He is this traditional Cybertron design, with D104 typed on the back. I'm sure that meant something at some time. But for now, all we can really do with it is plug the key into this socket in the back of the big gun station and flip up a pair of missile batteries. I like that they went through the effort of actually painting all the individual missiles so you can better see them and actually get an image of this is how many he's firing. For a little bit more armament, we can flip these out, and not only does he get a couple extra guns, because, this thing needed more guns, but an extra row of missiles, though strangely enough not painted this time. Which is more strange once we get into robot mode, and when we get there, I will show you exactly why it is strange. But for now, we must transform him in order to get him into that mode. First off, I'm going to get this out of the way by folding it up. It's on a double-hinged thing, so that's a little bit weird. Here, we'll get rid of this too, just so it doesn't fly off somewhere and ruin the review, because it, of course, it's going to do that. This whole section is pegged together and collapses in to form the legs. So the pelvis hinges out, and then these very heavy slides. The feet flip up like that. And now we flip over. We'll move these pieces down a little bit, and then crack this toy in half up here. There's a little bit of a clearance issue at this point. It takes a little bit of wiggling to kind of get the parts all the way apart. It's kind of problematic. There's a doesn't help that these things are a little bit stiffer over the years, but whatever. And again, relying on the old slide system to collapse the parts down, and then we flip the head down, and that is our Cybertron defense hotshot in robot mode. And again, very different robot mode than we are used to seeing from anything named hotshot. It's heavy duty, heavy built, very powerful looking. There's nothing sleek or racer about him anymore. He is all business. There's a little bit left in the head, because he does still retain that visor he has had ever since Armada, though the shape has changed over the years. It's still a signature of the design, and it still comes across fairly well here, though it looks more like a tactical goggle, or geez, even a crown since it's painted yellow. It's a little strange, but, whatever. It doesn't fold down like the old ones do. It just is. I'll also keep him here a little bit longer so you can see all the new details in the chest, because there's a lot of paint going on here to make some of the details stand out really well. I like the little dot of red on the inside too. It's a nice gunmetal gray and silver. I like it. Looking very cool, and I love how raised and lowered a lot of the details are. Very, very heavy molding going on here. A lot of the detailing is new since it was all hidden in the vehicle mode. The hands are painted silver, as you can see. Plainly detailed arms, so nothing to write home about. And the legs still have this kind of a cross pattern to kind of show maybe there's something more. Yeah, anyway, we'll go on and kind of talk about a little bit more to him. There's a lot of little molding I could talk about because it's covering this guy. Again, those X spots, which is kind of a signature design in any kind of like military armor. We can talk articulation. Would you like that? Yeah, let's talk that. The neck rotates all the way around, so you have that. The arms are double hinged, so you can theoretically get a universal range out of them. However, they are so big and bulky that it does not quite work for every position, so you're kind of limited on what the arms can do. That also goes for the elbows, which have a heavy ratchet to them and only go that far. And up to that point, the shell kind of gets in the way a little bit too much to actually get the elbow bent to 90 degrees, so he is limited there. You do have a decent range in the hips, which are universal joints, and thanks to these pieces flipping up and down, you can get the leg all the way forward. And luckily, no restriction on the knee, which does have a 90-degree range. No rotation in the leg, though. There's also no bicep rotation. So, as a mid-2000s toy, the articulation actually kind of low. He can get into some good poses because he's this bulky, burly bot in this iteration of hotshot. but nothing too spectacular, nothing too crazy. And it doesn't help that he's got those unfortunate points on the inside of his feet. I hate when Transformers do this. It's all flat-footed over here, but when you split the legs, that's the point that the Transformer tries to rest on, which means his balance starts going out of whack. So he actually has a rock to him because of that, which is annoying and can keep him from forming some of the poses you might want to put him into. So unfortunately, he does have a few flaws when it comes to posability and articulation. If we want some added playability to make up for that, there is the dagger that was stuck to the side of his vehicle mode. And of course, it can be used as a combat knife, and that's pretty standard, but they went through the trouble of adding a peg hole, so you can also have a Mortal Kombat Baraka kind of arm-mounted blade thing going on. And that's neat too. I actually kind of prefer it this way because it's a little bit more unique. It makes it just a little bit better than your standard knife. So that's a nice little touch. I do like that. Now, what the toy's really good at is being heavily armed. So, to do just that, we will flip the guns forward so he is now a little bit more ready for combat. And we'll go back to the Cyber Key, which now does pretty much the same thing. It flips all of that out and reveals all those extra missile batteries. Because when you've got these two, sometimes you just need missiles instead. So, like, why would you have these two guns when you have two perfectly good missile batteries there? As well as two perfectly good missile batteries here. As well as two perfectly good missile batteries. Are you getting the idea? Yeah, this thing is armed. Like, armed to the teeth. There's an absolute ton of missiles ready to fire out of this guy. He's... like, look at that. And they're all painted. Like, this is why the ones in vehicle mode were so weird, because they're the only... Like, it's only a few of them. It's 8. Like, there's dozens painted here, and they skipped 8 of them. Why? But look at it. Like, that's one of the most heavily armed Transformers I've ever seen. And, like, it's kind of, like, intimidating to actually just stare at all of those missiles pointing at me. I feel like he's, like, ready to get retribution for all those years of bashing on his original form. Don't shoot me, bro. I'm on your side. I actually like you as a toy. No, hang on. Unless you do that and give me problems at the end of the review. So, good and bad, that is Cybertron Defense Hotshot. Probably, in my estimation, possibly the weakest of the 3 Cybertron Defense toys. I did really like that Cybertron forgoed the usual, we're gonna repaint him to upgrade, and actually cast a completely new body for Hotshot. Sorry. I'm getting a little bit antsy for my Combiner War toy to show up soon. A little antsy. But, talking about this toy, Hotshot here is fairly fine. Like, he's got some limitations in robot mode, but I do really like his vehicle mode. And the added gimmick of all the hidden missiles does give him a really cool play pattern, especially for a deluxe, because it's usually like a leader animated Magnus or something that has all those, like, hidden missile pods and everything. So to get all of that in a nice little chunk toy like this, that's not so bad. So he gets a positive grade from me, though there was a lot of room for improvement. And now we look for other Hotshots to review. I'm gonna hold off on them for a little bit, but yeah, I'm kind of doomed to review them all eventually.